Biafra, superstars, media.
My people, my Biafran people, na how una day. I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending from where you're listening to the sound of my voice. This one, na Biafra Superstars Media, and I'm holding it down. I say may God bless Biafra, and may God bless His Excellency Oyendu Nnamdi Kanu. And above all, I want to say may God bless His Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic Government in Exile, USB, the United States of Biafra. I want to say God bless the Prime Minister, Mazi Ekpa Simon and Joko, for the great job he's doing. To my Prime Minister, I want to say we thank you, we appreciate you, we love you. And we know in your name, Simon, Biafra is coming. In your hands, Biafra is safe. And when Biafra comes, the people of Biafra will rejoice. My people, today permits me to sound more official today, because today I want to address the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, the man they know as David Cameron, and his new name now is Lord David Cameron, because I've done my research for the past few days. I took my time to do a research to know what is going on, the rationale behind addressing Nigeria as an Islamic state, when he understands that the entities that make up that zoo called Nigeria, the different nationalities, the ethnic groups that make that contraption called Nigeria, that project named Nigeria by Lord Lugard. My fellow Biafrans, today I want you to know I want to address the Prime Minister, Mazi Simon Ekpa, to let him know that I am happy with the way he responded to David Cameron, who is the Foreign Secretary of Britain. And also I want Sir David Cameron, or Lord David Cameron, that's his new name, to understand that within the structure of Nigeria, we have the eastern region known as Biafra. And we, the Biafrans, we are not Muslims. We, the Biafrans, we practice three major religious systems. The first one being the Jewish system, the African spirituality, and Christianity. We also have paganism, respect to those, because everybody has the right to worship the way they want to. So my people, today I want to speak to Lord David Cameron, that's his name. And at the end of this presentation, I will challenge our Biafran people who are living in the United Kingdom, Britain. I will challenge them to please speak to their MPs. Speak to their member of parliament, those who are representing them in their county, in their locality, and in their state of abode. Because I don't want them to come with the concept of Nigeria in their brain, where they assume they are scared to speak to those who represent them. If you live in the United Kingdom, Britain, I want to assure you that you have every right to go to the office of your member of parliament. I believe they call them the MPs, Go to them, book an appointment with them, and have a discussion. Tell them you are requesting an apology from Lord David Cameron, because that's his new name, that's his title now. Lord Lugard, Lord David Cameron. Check the synonyms there. Lord Lugard was the one that amalgamated Nigeria, that made Nigeria to be one nation. And now, Lord David Cameron is the same person who is now addressing that contraption called Nigeria as an Islamic state. So please, our Biafran brothers and sisters, families who are living in Britain, in the UK, they call it Great Britain, we are calling upon you to summon the courage to speak to your MP. My people, before I start this presentation, I want to play a video of David Cameron speaking about his meeting with the Islamic states. I will play a snippet of that video, a very small clip of that video. Then at the end, I want you all to go back and do the research to play the full video. You will see where Lord David Cameron mentioned Nigeria being a member of the Islamic State, and I was baffled. I am glad our Prime Minister spoke on this.
Today I've been chairing a meeting of foreign ministers from Arab states and other Islamic countries here in London to talk about the situation with respect to Israel and Gaza. Obviously today we've had the positive news of a humanitarian pause, and this is an opportunity to get hostages out and to get aid in to help people in Gaza. Obviously we want all of the hostages to be released. There was never a justification for this, and we'll continue to work to get that done. But we must use this pause to help Palestinian people in Gaza, to help their suffering. But also let's think about the longer term. How do we start to put in place the building blocks of a secure and stable Israel able to defend itself, but crucially also justice and peace and stability for Palestinian people?
So to Lord David Cameron, I want to speak to you from the perspective of your own country. Because in the year 2016, you were the Prime Minister of Britain. And in 2016, you spoke on the need for Brexit when the people of Britain they clamored to exit from the EU. When they called for a referendum to exit Europe, the European Union. You were one of those that listened to your people. You respected their rights, and at the end, you made sure they were able to vote in the year 2016, which was called Brexit, the referendum to exit Europe. And you were also the Prime Minister in 2020, where in the month of January 2020, at the beginning of a new year, Britain was officially granted the access to exit Europe due to the outcome of the voting of the people. And also that was the month and year that Europe was officially seen as an avenue for Britain to let go. So you dotted all your I's, all the contracts were signed and terminated, and you were allowed to leave officially in the month of January 2020. So my Mr. David Cameron, my question is this now. I want to understand if your people have the right to vote or be voted for. They were able to vote to stay in Europe or to exit Europe. I want to know why you felt the need to not grant the people living within that entity called Nigeria. I understand that Nigeria is owned by Britain. It's a property of Britain. The name Nigeria is owned by Britain, but the people within Nigeria, they are free. And within that contraction called Nigeria, we the Biafrans, like I said before, we have nothing to do with Islam. We are not Islamic. In fact, 99.9% of the people living in Biafra, they practice all other different religions minus Islam, because it is not part of our life, it's not part of our culture or our tradition. We have not been able to interact with the Islamic faith. So I want to ask you, or I need you to please justify the rationale behind you addressing Nigeria as an Islamic state when you know that a people known as the Biafrans, we've been clamoring to leave Nigeria. That's the question. Because sometimes it beats my imagination that if Britain could have the right to go out there to cast their vote in order to leave or to stay in Brexit, why won't you give a country that you own, Nigeria? Why won't you give those living within that name, that brand called Nigeria? Why wouldn't you give us the chance, the opportunity to vote in order to stay in Nigeria or to exit Nigeria? And also, you have added more salt to the injury by now classifying every indigent living within Nigeria as Muslims. Because when you say that Nigeria is part of the Islamic countries or the Islamic states, it means you are classifying Nigeria as an Islamic country. And I find that to be more like a fallacious statement, because Biafrans within Nigeria, we are not an Islamic people. We don't practice the Islamic faith. And like I said, 99.9% of the spiritual system or the religious belief that we have is everything but Islam. So please, I would like to demand an apology from you, because I don't see why what is good for the goose shouldn't be good for the gander. If your people in Britain can vote to exit Europe in the name of Brexit, why do you feel you have the moral fortitude to brand a nation as an Islamic state? At this point, I want to call on our Prime Minister, Mazi Simon Ekpa. I want to call on you to please speak more on this, shed more light on this, because we cannot remain in that contraption called Nigeria. Because the more we remain in Nigeria, the more we start having things like this, where a foreign country can brand us as being an Islamic country. I rest my case on that one. Now, coming back to the Prime Minister, the picture and the video you are seeing before your eyes is what happens when a country is officially noted as an Islamic state. You can see the culture of the women changing before your eyes. In the 70s, they were dressing more modern. And in this year, 2023, before your eyes, you are seeing the covering of the women, their way of life and their tradition and religious belief, you can see how they now look. They now cover themselves with the hijab, with the veil, so that nobody will be able to know who they are and according to their religious beliefs. So, Lord David Cameron, I want to speak at this juncture that my people, we the Biafrans, we have a different spiritual system. We cannot sit back and watch us being dragged into this burning house called Nigeria, because we know what the Nigerian government they're up to. We know that their master plan. We know their game plan is to align themselves with the Arab world, with the Arab League, with Saudi Arabia, and officially make Nigeria a Sharia country where women will be barred from dressing in a Western or in a modern way, where women will be allowed to cover themselves. It will be prohibited for a woman to be seen in public with a man. It will be against the law of Islam for a woman to be seen with a man that is unmarried, and it will be against the law for a woman and a man to have social time in public. So at this point, my people, I want to call on Lord David Cameron to please rethink and reconsider. Before your eyes, you can see how countries like Algeria, Egypt, Syria, and the rest of them, how they changed before your eyes within 30 years of being declared as an Islamic state. The culture, the dressing, the way of life, the tradition will change from more of a moderate way of life to a hardcore jihadist way of life. So my people, at this point, I want to speak to our sisters, our brothers, the Biafrans living in the UK, in Britain. I want to call upon you to please go to your MPs. Speak to your member of parliament. They represent you. Their job is to take your voice, your views, and represent in the parliament. That's what they are paid for. They are paid to represent you. I want you to please write to them, explain to them, because in most cases they may not know that your country of origin, which is Biafra, trapped in Nigeria. They may not know that their foreign secretary, Lord David Cameron, is now addressing you as an Islamic state. It means you claiming to be a Christian, you claiming to be a black Jew, you claiming to be practicing the African spirituality and the way of life, being African, is now null and void. The moment Britain certifies you to be an Islamic country, it means that the rules and regulations in Nigeria must be carried out according to the Islamic faith, according to the Sharia law. And if you break those laws, the world will not come to your aid. They will see you as a Muslim. They will see you as living in a country where the Muslim or Islamic laws are being practiced. And that way, you must adhere to the rules and regulations within that Islamic country. For example, if you find yourself working or having a job in Dubai, you're expected to follow the culture, the tradition, the religious belief and the regulations in that country. If you find yourself working in Saudi Arabia, in Oman, in Kuwait, in Lebanon, and in some other Muslim countries, you are expected not to be seen with an unmarried woman in the public. If you're going into a hotel, it must be your wife. You won't be allowed to drink alcohol or spirits in the public. And the rules, or the Islamic rules and regulations, must be adhered to at all times. Before your eyes, you can see how these women, they changed. Afghanistan women dressing smart, and now that's who they are. Within a 30 to 50 years span of having a country turn into an Islamic state. So my fellow Biafrans, this is what David Cameron has declared upon Nigerians. Those who believe in Nigeria, those who believe in one Nigeria, and those who are not ready to discuss that thing they call Nigeria, that nation they call Nigeria, because Nigeria is a country but not a nation. The project called Nigeria is owned by Britain, and once again, Britain, through Lord David Cameron, has named you and has branded you to be an Islamic state. The same Britain they mentioned or they named you as being Nigeria, and now the same Britain are calling you an Islamic state. We know those who are behind this, because some years ago, in 2017, the whole world was crying. The media men in that zoo called Nigeria, they were crying about Buhari, the then president of that zoo, going all out to Saudi Arabia and registering Nigeria as an Islamic state. When the media cried out, they were sanctioned for speaking out. And now before your eyes, the owner of Nigeria, the owners of the company called Nigeria, Britain again, Britain through Lord David Cameron, has now branded you as an Islamic state. My fellow Biafrans, this is why we must thank Nnamdi Kanu for the job he has done, for the foundation he has laid for us. And this is why we must thank Simon Ekpa, our Prime Minister, for continuing with that blueprint and coming with a new dimension. My fellow Biafrans, at this juncture, I want to say, we must keep all praying. We must keep on praying for our Prime Minister, that God will guide him, protect him, and lead him. And at this point, I want to call on those who claim to be the Christian Association of that zoo called Nigeria. They call them CAN, C-A-N. I want to ask them what they are doing. What have they done in regards to this new development? What are they doing to arrest this situation of Nigeria being known as an Islamic state? Because within Nigeria, there are different parties, different stakeholders, which you can find the Biafrans, the Yoruba Nation, the Middle Belt, the Arewa, and the rest of them. These are different stakeholders. There was no discussion. There was no conference. There was no agreement that Nigeria should be addressed as an Islamic state. But once again, the Fulani cabal, who are the rulers of Nigeria, they have once again woken up in the night while the other parties were sleeping. They went in the night and they have somehow succeeded in signing an agreement that makes Nigeria to be seen as an Islamic country. Just some few weeks ago, or last month, we all saw the saying of that man called Kabir, an Islamic man, where he said he came to Nigeria and he addressed your military as the Muslim military. He addressed your immigration as Muslim immigration. And he also addressed your Air Force. He addressed the Nigerian Air Force as Muslim Air Force. And I told you in my video, I told you that the game or the brain behind it is the Fulani cabal. They say one thing in Nigeria and they say something else in diaspora. Whenever they go down to Iran, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, they told them that Nigeria is now officially a Muslim country. Which is why the money you spend, the Naira has something written on it in Arabic. Even your coat of arms, your so-called coat of arms, has the inscriptions of Arabic written on it. My people, you have been sold. The other parties in Nigeria that were Yoruba brothers, I understand within the Yoruba nation you have Muslims and Christians and the Yoruba spiritualities, the Ifa and the rest of them. I don't know if you're okay with what is happening. I don't know how you will feel if one day you wake up and Sharia law becomes the official law in that so-called Nigeria. But this message must go out to all the parties involved. Because the CAN, the Christian Association of Nigeria, they have failed us. With all due respect, I told you, most of your so-called pastors in Nigeria, they were Muslim converts. This was a blueprint. This was the master blueprint of the Fulani cabal. They have taken over your church. They have taken over your place of worship by imposing their people who claim to be pastors, who claim to be Christians, but they were Muslim converts. An example again I will give is Pastor Tunde Bakare. There is a reason why I always use that man as an example. Even the Reverend Father, is it Cooker, or whatever his name is? What has he said about this? What statement has he made about the Fulani cabal going to register Nigeria as an Islamic state? This was the blueprint of the Fulani cabal. This is why they are angry with the Biafrans. This is why they are angry with Nnamdi Kanu when he told us they were coming. They came with their headers. They came with Boko Haram. They came with their killers. They came with their military in order to subjugate us and bring in the Islamic way of life. My people, at this point, I want to finally call on Lord David Cameron. I want him to know that we, the Biafrans, we are demanding an apology. If it was a slip of tongue, you must apologize. Because our number one problem in that so-called Nigeria has been Britain. Britain was responsible for the amalgamation of Nigeria. Britain was responsible for naming Nigeria. Britain was responsible for telling the Fulani cabal they were born to rule. And Britain is still responsible for the killing of our people. Because we, the Biafrans, we saw the handwriting on the wall. In 1967, we chose to leave Nigeria. But again, Britain was responsible for us losing that war. because they supported Nigeria. And now before your eyes, the British Foreign Secretary is the one naming Nigeria as an Islamic country. My fellow Biafrans, the days ahead are tough. The days ahead will be rough. Which is why we must follow Simon Ekpa. We must follow our Prime Minister. We must support him because he is the one that has the blueprint. He is the one to guide us throughout these turbulent times. We must support Master Simon Ekpa. We must support the Biafra Republic government in exile. And we must support all the media men out there, the media warriors for the job they are doing. We must support them. So from me, from here, for now, I'm going to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah, check me out. Superstars Media. Lord Lugard, Bloomington, Lord Lugard, and it's wild Flora show. 1914 amalgamation is what we dying for. 3 nations to 1 nation, ever since annihilation. Nepotism is nonsense. You and you, clap your hands. Biafra gonna come, clap your hands. Biafra, Oduduwa, we're free now. Freedom is gonna come, we're free now. Yeah.